It's all finished here in Parky Queeve. Waterford are into the All-Ireland semi-final, winning 428 to 227. Taggy Fogarty, you were watching the game for Off the Ball today. What did you make of it?
Yeah, a phenomenal game of hurling. Frantic stuff from beginning to end. The first half was just crazy. I think it was 18 scores in 18 minutes. We had 3 goals inside 10 minutes and opportunities missed as well. In the first 10 minutes, Waterford came out of the ranks. Jamie Byrne set the scale alight, 3 or 4 points straight away from midfield. And really, it was Waterford dominating. But then again, Tipperary hit their full back line, and I felt in the first 15-20 minutes they were targeting their full back line, and Shane McCallan scored 2 goals, which put Tipp right back in the game. But a phenomenal game of hurling. It was 6 goals altogether, with possibly another 3 or 4 goals, missed opportunities as well. It ebbed and flowed, and when Waterford, I felt in the second half, when Waterford in the third quarter they scored 1-7 to 3 points, I felt that was kind of a turning point. But then they took their foot off the gas and allowed Tipp back into it and gave Jason Ford opportunities to score frees, and they kept tacking on, and really then it was Montgomery's goal in the 71st minute that put it to bed, and Waterford, in my eyes, deserved winners.
As you said there, a fantastic game of hurling, a proper championship game. But that first 10 minutes alone there, like, you were penciling down a score, looking back up, another score. Like, it was just end-to-end stuff, Taggy.
It was end-to-end stuff, yeah. It was free-flowing. I'm not sure what the free count was in that, but it wasn't a whole lot. I know Waterford only scored 1-3 from place balls. Phenomenal stuff out of 428. Like, it's crazy. But in the first 20 minutes, it was just, I was putting down scores left, right and centre. I was trying to keep track on who was marking who. Cotton Barrett picking up Hutchinson, Dan McCormick picking up Jamie Barron midfield. There was so much things going on, but it was just crisp, clean hurling on both ends. And then the second half, it did die down a small bit. The pace of the game did die down a small bit in the third quarter, and I think Tipperary felt it in the legs a small bit.
That battle there, as you mentioned there, Cathal Barrett against Desi Hutchinson, that was a key battle there today. Very much 50-50. But for you, how do you think that played out?
Look, I'm not sitting on the fence here, but I thought Cathal Barrett had a great game. Any balls that Desi Hutchinson got 50-50 wise, I thought Cathal Barrett came out with them, and that's all he could do. But then again, he scored 1-2 from play, I think it was, and the balls he got in them instances were straight to hand. Like, you can't defend against them balls popping up off the ground into hand, and he's gone. If Desi Hutchinson gets the ball into his hand, he'll put that ball over the bar. He will do damage. But I think on the rate of 50-50 balls, Cathal Barrett did so much well, and he's one of the best defenders for Tipperary, and one of the best players on the field today for Tipperary.
And from one end to another, as we said at the start, the first 10 minutes there, Seamus Callanan, 2 goals in the opening 10 on Conor Prunty. A lot of full-backs there, their heads probably would have went down, not Conor Prunty. Definitely throughout the remaining 60 or so minutes, you would have felt probably on top in that battle.
Absolutely, yeah. Look, I think at the beginning of the game, we were kind of saying the Waterford backline, because they've been stitched together. Tadhg de Burke has been missing. Conor Gleeson missed the game due to a red card. Even Stephen O'Keefe, the goalkeeper, not playing this year. So we were wondering about the full backline. And Tipperary did target it, and it did work in the first 20 minutes. Prunty got caught ball watching for the first goal. Seamus Callan snuck in, and I thought it was going to be Seamus Callan's day. I really did. He's been kind of below par the last couple of games, and I thought this was a big one. But in fairness to Waterford backs, and especially Conor Prunty, he stood up, and as you said yourself, after the 20-minute period was over, he nearly got man of the match. He came out with every ball, and Tipperary probably didn't realise that it wasn't working. They kept pucking the ball into the corner spots, but they're being outplayed by the Waterford backline, and Prunty was leading the charge. So a great game, I felt, by Prunty, and that'll only grow in confidence.
This Waterford team, Taggy, maybe you can tell us from what you saw here live today. Obviously, what we see on TV, you don't get the full picture, but the running off the ball we see from this Waterford team, how impressed are you in terms of the tactics they have? And when it goes forward on, we'll find out later on who they play in the semi-final. Are they a match for any team, specifically Limerick?
I'm very impressed with them. Last year when they were beaten in the Ireland final, I was thinking that it'll be very hard for them to come back, and especially with the injuries at the beginning of the year, I was thinking that they'd get to a quarter final and maybe limp out of the championship. But I think with Liam Cahill at the helm, he made tough decisions. He brought in Bennett in centre back, Kieran Bennett out wing back, And that half-back line of Waterford is so impressive. They were there's talk about centre-backs and great centre-backs, and Ken McGrath was a great centre-back for Waterford, but this half-back line is playing as a team. They're there for each other. They're off the shoulder. They're really, really hassling and harrying and hooking and blocking. So they're phenomenal. And as you said, off the ball, they're running. The Jamie Barron runs, the Callum Lyons runs, that there's never seen, that they mightn't even get onto the ball. They are absolutely bust themselves every game. But in saying that, Tipperary did stop it at source at times. And when it broke down, Tipperary got scores from it. So I think the key to Waterford is don't let that running game, don't let them go through the channels, stop it at source, and you'll get some benefit from it.
Like, we could talk about pretty much 1 to 15 on the Waterford team. They were all fantastic there today. I just want to talk about the midfield, their impact on the game. At the start, as we said, Jamie Barron, I think he got 3 points in the opening 15, ended up scoring 4. And his partner in crime there, Hogan, I think he ended up scoring 3 points. So that's 7 points from play from midfield. How big is that to get your midfield scoring 7 points from play in a game?
It's huge, and midfield has changed so much over the years. Midfield is all over the field, in my eyes. You're down in the backs, you're setting up play. But Jamie Barron, for me, is Waterford's tick and talk. He makes Waterford tick. When he drives forward, when he's on the ball, when he's in full flight, the crowd get behind him, the team get behind him, and the runners are on his back. And I think it's a really good mix with Hogan. Hogan kind of holds the ground, wins a lot of hard ball. And where did he come out of? You know, that's like Liam Callum made some decision there. I haven't heard of him before. And next thing he's in midfield scoring 3 points in an Ireland quarter final. Phenomenal stuff. And they are the driving force of the Waterford team. And to beat the Waterford team, it's the middle third. That's where they dominate. You have to win the middle third, and Waterford are going to be a serious team in that quarters.
On looking at Tipperary there, look, it's an early finish for them this year. I know that group of players, they'll be disappointed. Liam Sheedy will be disappointed. And look, you're an Urlingford man. You'd be around Turles, you'd hear the goss on the street around there. Coming into this game, I suppose all year, it has been talked about, has Liam Sheedy been picking, Tipperary's best team, or you could say picking the most effective team, the most balanced team, bringing in some of the young players. There today, look, Seamus Callan, great start, but you feel maybe Sheedy might be looking back saying maybe there was probably 1 or 2 calls there he would have changed around. He should have changed around.
Yeah, look, there's 2 sides to that story. Yes, I'm on the border there, and the talk is that Liam Sheedy should have went with a younger team, maybe give a younger guys the chance. But what I would say on that is, are these guys stepping up in training? Are these lads coming to the fore and outperforming the older guys on the team? Liam Sheedy makes hard calls and has made hard calls down through the years. When he had that great team, 5, 6, 7 years ago, the team that beat us in the 5 in a row, he had a flitter of players that he had to pick from, and he made big calls back then. So I'm just wondering, are these guys actually standing up and training? Jake Morris is the only guy that kind of made a breakthrough. And after that, I haven't really seen much of the under-20s come through. Now, in saying that, do you just throw them in for the sake of it? I'm not too sure. So I would suspect that the likes of Cannellan, the likes of Noel McGrath, Porringmar, they were still doing very well in training. And they were the best option to Liam Sheedy at the time. Do you just throw in lads for the sake of it? Well, you could get bet by a double score if that's the case. You have to know your team. But for sure, I think there is a time for a bit of a change in Tipperary. I think they need to find a few extra forwards. I'm not running down the guys at all. These guys have been absolutely fantastic servants to Tipperary. They wear their heart on their sleeves. Serious men, hurler of the years, all-stars, all-Irelands in their back pockets. Phenomenal men on and off the field. I know a few of them there. Super guys. Gave it all for Tipperary, and I'm not retiring anybody, but I think there is a time for a bit of change. The legs did look a little bit heavy, as we said again. The third quarter there in the second half, Waterford outscored 1-7 to 3 points. Tipp did kind of come back in, but there's really kind of last gasp stuff, I felt. It was from freeze, it was from maybe overturning possession. They didn't look in that flow. And even the goal opportunities, John McGrath, great save by the Waterford goalkeeper, absolutely fantastic. But before I would have seen them going in, Seamus Cannon struck a ball out by the side of the post. That would have been finished, I think, a couple of years ago. So, and I know myself, when it comes to that stage, doubts do creep in. And when the guy is getting away from you and you can't catch him, you might keep into him, but if you can't catch him, doubts do creep in, and that's the time when you need change.
For you, when you were part of that Kilkenny team, what was Brian Cody saying when you got further on in your career? maybe you weren't starting every game, but what was Brian Cody saying to you to keep you motivated? You know, Aidan, you're not starting here today, but for what was it that he was saying that when you came on, you were having a huge impact, and that you still had a chance of maybe starting the next day?
Yeah, well, Brian is a phenomenon. Like, he wouldn't talk to me at all, which was, and that is, if you talk to any retired player, all you'd want to say is exactly what you said. Look, you're not starting today, but you have a chance of coming on. But he never said that. But I think the ethos and the culture that he built when I entered the panel, I seen the leadership from the other guys that when they weren't starting, they were driving it on, and he said that whoever's doing the best in training will start. And to be fair to him, he made tough decisions, and guys that were flying it in training did start. And I got my position because I was doing well in training, and he gave me the opportunity to play. So I can't backtrack and go, well, it's not fair now that I'm not starting 10 years later. It's only fair that he stood by his ethos, and that's what he did. He stood by what he talks and breeds, and I think that feeds into the players that, yeah, he gave me my shot. Now there's other guys coming in, and I'm not going to go away and sulk. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to do a bit for the team, whether it's just off the field or even in the dressing room, just keeping that drive going and that ethos of what he has created in that dressing room.
We obviously don't know the result from the Cork and Dublin game yet, but for you, being a Kilkenny man, who do you think they would prefer now in the semi-final? Would it be more Waterford, Cork, or Dublin? Sorry.
Yeah, it could be. Look, if you're going on the bookies and things, I think Cork are favourites. I wouldn't like to play Waterford. I think they're a very good team, but the flip side of that is we played them last year in the semi-final, and they took us apart in the second half. So that's motivation for Brian Cody, and that's motivation for a Kilkenny team. And you know yourself, when you lose a game by a team, the next game you want to play is the very same team. And I think Kilkenny are in a better position. I think they've changed their game plan slightly. I think Brian has stuck to his core beliefs of long ball, intensity, being hard to beat, but he's mixed it with a short game, and they look a lot more comfortable on the ball. And I think he's strengthened his panel, and the bench is a lot stronger as well. So I think Kilkenny are in a totally different position than this time last year. If I would say who I'd prefer probably play Cork, because I think that Waterford team is a serious team.
It's been an eventful week off the pitch in hurling. We've had the retirement from the inter-county scene of Joe Canning, and also Davy Fitzgerald. His time in Wexford has ended. Taggy Fogarty, I just want to touch on Joe Canning first. This guy, I remember back July 19, 2008, I was sitting in the grandmother's house in Sligo watching this phenomenon give one of the greatest performances of all time against one of the greatest Cork teams of all time, scoring 2-12 that day. And I remember Joe saying probably the worst thing he did in his career was score 2-12 that day. But look, a fantastic player, and I don't think there's, you can say anything that properly describes, because literally he was just he was just different level.
For sure, an absolute icon. I remember the very game that you're talking about, 2-12 from a youngster. I think he was 18 years of age. I think he was marking Dermot the Rock O'Sullivan, which is no mean feat. But Joe has been talked through the GA word. When you're in the club scene and stuff, you always talk about who's coming up through the ranks. Richie Hogan, maybe for us, or whatever the case may be. Joe Canning was earmarked at 15 years of age. He was doing phenomenal things with his club, Port Humna, and then he came on the scene with Galway, and he just couldn't associate. It was Galway. You're playing Galway and you're playing Joe Canning, and when you're known as Joe around the GA circle, you've met it. When you're known as one name, you've met it. And I know look, flick hand pass from Austin Gleeson there today. That's a Joe Canning speciality. I think that came from his technique, his ability to, I think, have the pressure on his shoulders for all those years, because he knew himself that if he didn't perform with Galway, more likely is Galway would have lost. And he had the pressure of the scrutiny of the media being on him at a very young age, and having to perform. And that is very hard, day in, day out, to do that. And Joe has done it for 10 to 12 years. Phenomenal displays, massive scores against Kilkenny. I remember he caught a ball over Joey Holden, one touch into the hand, bang, back in the net. Just sideline cuts over the bar, LIT. You hear all the stories during the week now with managers, and they're coming out with little comments about he did this and he did that. But a phenomenal leader and very humble, and that's what I like about the guy. That's what I like about sports people when they go to the elite level. The Henry Sheffrins, the DJ Careys and these lads. But Joe was very humble, and he struck me as a fella that probably didn't like the limelight that much. Liked to kind of avoid it and do his talking on the field, and I admire him for that. And pity he's gone, but look, it's his decision. I felt maybe another year or two in him, but a phenomenal man, phenomenal hurler, done great things, and I'm delighted, absolutely delighted he got his Ireland medal in 2017. And if you remember back that, he scored that point against Tipperary in the semi-final where there was 3 guys coming onto him on the sideline and he stuck it right over the bar. And in 2012 he drew up the game against Kilkenny. I was playing the same day myself, a free out on the sideline as well. These are the massive moments that Joe has done, and I couldn't talk about the man highly enough.
Yeah, so many highlights. As you mentioned there, that 2015 Leinster final, the turn there. I think if that was on Strictly, he would have got tens all around for that, you know. But yeah, so many highlights. Is there any specific one that does stand out for you though?
Yeah, as I kind of mentioned there, well, unfortunately, the 2012 drawn final, yeah, he sticking that ball over the bar, because I remember just waving the hurl at him and I was like, this man's not going to miss, and sure enough he didn't. But definitely the one against Tipperary in the semi-final to get him into the All-Ireland in 2017, and when I went on to win it. I just remember being at that match and the stadium was shaking, and there was just a nervous energy. The ball was fed down the line. I don't know who it was, the Galway player turned back and there's only one man to give it to Joe, and I just remember the 3 Tipperary defenders tearing down to get the block in, and he had only minimal time to make the swipe, and he put it straight over the bar with legs on it, you know, it was going over the net, and the whole stadium just shook that day. And as a Galway supporter, I couldn't imagine that more brilliant, but definitely one of the standout moments for me was that day when that point against Tipp.
And obviously the other big news to come out this week, Davy Fitzgerald, his time at Wexford has ended. For you, how do you feel he did overall? How do you feel his tenure was at Wexford?
Yeah, look, I think Davy went in at a time when Wexford hurling was at a very low ebb, and I feel they did needed a lot of life and a big injection of energy, and I think that's what Davy Fitz bought into it. I've heard rumours that before Wexford the setup wasn't professional, that maybe, you know, they lacked maybe physiotherapists and things like that. And Davy went in, and I think the young fellas really saw the change in preparation, really saw the change in what an inter-county team is supposed to be all about. He brought an energy, he brought an excitement to the county. And look, I think with Davy, there's always something with him. Now, whether you like that or not, I don't know. There's always a bit of controversy with him. There's always something behind the scenes going on, which I don't like personally. I think it just should be about the team, but he brings that aura about them, and I think at the time that's what Wexford needed. They won a Leinster final, which probably before he started would have been the pinnacle. Probably lost out to another Leinster final closely to Kilkenny. So look, his tenure is that he brought Wexford from a low ebb, brought them to a good place, won a Leinster title with them. But the thing is, where has he left Wexford, I suppose, and where does he leave these teams that he goes to? You know, he went to Waterford in 2008, got to an Ireland final. I think he won a league with them. Clare, went to Clare, his tenure there, won an Ireland with Clare. But then these teams, after he left, seemed to kind of disappear for a while. So I don't know whether it's just management coming in, trying to get a stronghold on him, or that training level that Davy has for them 3 or 4 years runs him ragged, and then, you know, it's kind of Jose Mourinho kind of style that they can't get back on their feet. So, look, he was successful with Wexford. You have to say it. What's next for Davy? It's hard to know. As I said, he does bring a bit of controversy with him. There's always something with them. So it's interesting to see. And he's in the game a long time now. He went straight out of playing, straight into management. So whether he wants to break himself, it's hard to know. But there's no real availability in any teams so far, anyway.